Greetings, everybody. I come to you with a very serious topic today. My name is Chris Zsilavetz, or Christine Zsilavetz, or Chrissy Zsilavetz, or Christian James Zsilavetz, or Z, or Zil, or Silly Zilly, or Mr. Z, or Miss Z. And if you grew up in Sayreville, New Jersey, in the 1970s and were class of 88 or thereabouts, then you knew me as Chris Zsilavetz, female. I played girls basketball, managed the girls softball team, was on the first girls soccer team at Sayreville War Memorial High School, helped found that team. I ran cross country to stay in shape for girls basketball. And then I moved to Manahawkin when I was a junior in high school and graduated from Southern Regional High School in class of 88. And I worked at Mill Creek Video and the Acme on Long Beach Island. And then I went off to college at Douglas College, the women's college at Rutgers University. And I lived in Club Curie, the hall for... Club Curie Hall for Women in Math and Science, which then became Bunting Cobb Hall for Women in Math, Science, and Engineering, and has since become STEM. I graduated Rutgers class of 1992, and then went on to teaching at Sayreville War Memorial High School, my alma mater, for my first year of teaching. And I am a math teacher by training, and I was a math teacher. And I taught kids who were essentially class of 92 all the way to 96, I guess, while I was there. And I was the freshman class advisor. And then I went on to teach at Memorial Middle School in Spotswood in the next town over. And I taught there for 3 years in 7th and 8th grade. I was the 7th and 8th grade math teacher at various times, and I was also the student council advisor. So some of you may know me in that realm. And then I moved to Seattle. I got married and moved to Seattle. And I lived in Renton and worked briefly at, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the school now, at the middle school up on Sunset Hill, and then got moved from there to Lindbergh High School, where I taught for 6 years. During that time, I got divorced and came out as a lesbian. And so some of you knew me from, because you were gay or seemed to be gay, and figured out that I was friendly and family. And then, like I said, I was there for 6 years, and I went to graduate school at Lesley University during that time, between 2000 and 2002. I was in Creative Arts Group 9. In Shoreline, and then after that was done, I went up to work at North Middle School in Everett with one of my grad school buddies, Carol Toohey, and was the art science middle school math teacher, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade for 2 years? 2 years. And after that, moved down to Tyee High School, where I worked for 2 or 3 years. I was a math teacher, a high school math teacher, and I ended up working in ACE, which was the social justice school, when we went to small schools. And right at the end of that, I realized I needed to transition. I came to grips with the fact that I'm transgender and that I needed to transition from female to male and transform my body. And my pronouns changed from she, her, hers to he, him, his. And I had about a month where I had to live as Miss Z as a teacher before school was out. And that was actually really challenging. And I quit teaching. Somehow I knew I wanted to quit teaching even before that happened. And I quit teaching, and I became a limousine driver at Seattle Limousine for about a year. And I lived off the sale of my house. And I got a call from a friend that said that they had a position open at Kent Meridian High School for a math interventionist. and that was in 2008 to 2009. And I did that for a year and a half as Mr. Z, going back to work as Mr. Z now. And I actually ran into some of my former Tyee students at that time, and including Brenda Martinez and Lauren Martinez and Simon Phillips, and there was one other one, I think. I also ran into one of my couple of my former students, Austin and Esther, out in the community, a couple of kids from Tyee. And I acted as if I didn't know them. Now, I left Kent Meridian High School in Kent for Atlanta as my wife got a job in Atlanta since she works for the Centers for Disease Control. And I since came here, was home with my kids, and I worked at Hess Academy, which is a little private school down the road from my house, and it's an awesome place for kids who don't necessarily fit in other places and need some extra loving care. And I worked there as stealth as trans for a year as Mr. Z. And after the end of that year, I realized I could not stay stealth and I needed to be who I was. And to allow students and families access to my experience and love and kindness and understanding as a queer identified trans man and someone who had been a member of the LGBT community for almost, well, let's see, since 1998, so for 16 years at that point. And that was 2014. And then I realized it was time to try to start Pride School Atlanta. And at that point, I came out in a very public way as a trans man and have been rocking and rolling ever since. And some of you I grew up with, and some of you I went to school with. Some of you I've known in recovery circles for the last almost 22 years. And some of you I've just met recently. And some of you I've never met in person. But you know who I am. And I share this with you today because as the federal government is considering the possibility of only making gender markers male and female and not changeable on any documents, and which would also lead to housing and job and education discrimination and lack of access to health care, especially mental health services, and lack of access to physical care, for trans-related care for people of all ages, which also leads to homelessness and suicide and a country that needs to support yet another 1.5 million people who wouldn't otherwise need to be supported. With this news, it's very upsetting to so many people, especially children. And as an advocate for LGBT youth, especially for trans youth, and for other trans folk just like me who are older, I implore you to share this with everyone you know and let them know that you all know a trans person and you knew this person quite well at various times in your life. You spent maybe 180 days with me. You spent 4 years in college with me. All my college roommates know who I am today, even though I was afraid to tell them at first. And as a trans person, having to come out to people and say, look, no matter what you think about me, I am transitioning. My voice is going to change. My pronouns are changing. My name is changing. I had a breast reduction, so I have a male pattern chest now. And as you can tell, I look completely male, and that's who I am. And while I outwardly identify as just a guy to most people, I am actually a trans man. And I also bring this to you because I am a parent as well. My children have attended Hess Academy, Fraser Children's Center, Educator High School, International Community School, Laurel Ridge Elementary School, Briar Vista Elementary School, and I can't tell you enough how important it is to stand tall and tell people that you love a trans person, or you know a trans person who knows you and cared about you and still cares about you. So please, write your Congress people, write to the White House, share this on every social media you can, and let somebody know your history with me, or your history with another trans person or non-binary person in your life. And my appearance doesn't harm you. The fact that I was on the girls' basketball team under Sherry Popowski and Janet Ryan and Sue, whose last name escapes me because she's since passed away, Sue Sharkey, who's still with us, and Snyder, Coach Snyder. It's all good. It's all good. And if you lived in Haven Homes in Parlin and went to Samsel or Arlith or Sayreville Junior High or Sayreville High School or Southern Regional High School or Rutgers, Douglas, Lesley University, and went to any of the schools I've worked in, or lived anywhere where I've lived, or have been partnered with me, or dated me briefly, or were married to me, or almost married me, you know that I'm still just a person. And so are all the other trans people out there, and they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Thank you for being you. Peace.